Welcome to the Geeks Assembled podcast. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and we have gathered here again, just a few of us tonight, and we are going to be talking about the Doctor Who episode, Rosa. And we're going to jump straight in. Let's go to Alex and Susan to see what they made of Rosa.
Well, it's one of the richest and most amazing episodes. I personally was blown away. I love that they went back in time. I love that they talked about a character who was phenomenally influential in the civil rights movement. They talked about other people who two of the characters were the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and just after he got his doctorate, and Rosa Parks, and right before she did that thing and with the bus, and it was emotional. It was, it made you cry. It got me in the gut when Ryan was slapped, and it pulled on every single heartstring I had. And yeah, I was blown away. Here's Alex.
Well, obviously it's a new era. And obviously, it's also the era of, especially on Facebook and Twitter, especially Facebook, of the 4 dimensions of Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. And it was a very nice episode. Some of it was a little heavy-handed, but that's nothing new. And it still was a very good proverb, and it was good that they sort of updated it as well. And they brought in Clinton and or Obama, which was good. And I think a lot of people liked it as much as didn't like it. I liked it. It was a little heavy-handed, but that's the way it is. And it's important in science fiction to, you always have illustrations of us and them, or us and versus them mentality, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But it's good that most people in the show work together, and I'm saying that on purpose.
Thanks for that, you two. Let's go to Brian. And Brian's only just finished re-watching the episode, haven't you, Brian? What did you make of it?
Yes, I have. So I watched the episode twice. But this episode I thought was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this is probably one of the most emotional impact episodes of Doctor Who within New Who by far. Because it's a history episode. It's one of those historical moments within Doctor Who. So I really enjoyed this. With the history within this episode, I haven't really heard of Rosa Parks until this episode. I mean, I don't know if that would be, I don't know if that's a shock or anything like that, but I just, wow, just everything that they put in this episode, just wow. There's a lot of white and black things, like a lot of racist things, like in it and everything. But that is it's meant for the episode, and that's how it was back then. So, just, wow. Again, Jodie Whittaker shines as the Doctor. I really enjoy her as the Doctor. So, I really hope she stays on for at least a good amount of years as Doctor.
Can I ask you something, Brian?
What?
So did you not know that this stuff actually used to go on?
I knew that there was, I didn't know the Rosa Parks thing apart about it. I knew back then it was a lot of heavy
Racism.
Hey,
You can say racism, Brian. You can say it.
yeah, no, this heavy racism within back in those times. I just didn't know like Rosa Parks and everything in it. So
But that's good because it's taught you something, hasn't it? You've learned from it, haven't you?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
I mean, I did know Martin Luther King.
You knew Martin Luther King, yeah. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
but you didn't know Rosa Parks.
No, not until now.
But now you do, and that's a good thing because we should all know these things in history, so we know not to fall back into them.
Well, that's
society can go backwards just as it can go forwards.
Well, that's what Doctor Who, like one of the original plans was for Doctor Who back in the classic era. They wanted to make like an historical kids program.
Yep, exactly.
So I'm glad like moments and episodes like these for New Who, they could impact and emotional things upon like this. I hope they have more of them. I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, like you say, this is what Doctor Who was originally designed for, to be a educational kids TV program. That's what Sidney Newman fought up, Verity Lambert worked on and all that. That's what it was originally meant to be. So this is going back to the original concept of Doctor Who. So this is nothing new.
I mean, I don't think that they had any historical emotional impact episodes before this one, have they? Within New Who?
Yeah, they did. They did with Vincent van Gogh.
Yeah, that's a while ago now. Yeah.
And they did with
what?
Carry on, Susan. What was you going to say?
And they did with like Shakespeare, and they did with Dickens. I mean, there were historical episodes, but the emotional impact of the episode really was mirrored in Vincent.
Yeah, he means the emotional elements of it, because it was a very, very highly emotional episode.
Because Vincent dealt with mental illness, and this one dealt with racism and segregation and apartheid, really.
Yep. Where the Shakespeare one didn't deal with any heavy-handed stuff, really, nor did the Dickens one. But this one, was about racism and apartheid and segregation. And you've got Vincent and the Doctor, as you correctly say, which is about mental health. Let's go to Stephen Price to see what he makes of Rosa.
Yeah, I don't know the history of Rosa. More into I know about Gettysburg, American history about Gettysburg, and the British history of King Charles I and Cromwell. Never heard of Rosa Parks till a few years ago, the woman played the actress played her to a T. Brilliant. You couldn't have asked for a better actress, and she deserves an award for being such so amazing in it. It's very emotional. You couldn't sit, with white people on the bus and all this and that. I didn't realize it was all that bad, with the, at that time. But it was excellent acted, and I like the new cinematic filming of the new series. Yeah, this episode is the best so far out of the new series.
Thanks for that, Stephen. Yeah, for me, it's one of the best episodes. It's honest to God, it's one of my favourite episodes ever. And I'm going to break the rules here slightly, because for me, it's a 10 out of 10. This episode, it really is. I got to come out and say it. I can't hold back that I want to give it a 10, because this episode made me feel every single emotion. It made me feel angry at what was going on back then. You know, when the man slapped Ryan for just picking up that lady's, whatever it was, and he was just helping him out, and then yeah, and it was funny as well. The episode did have a lot of humor, like the Banksy. I don't know whether you know Banksy at all in America. He's like a street artist, but no one knows who he is. And so they're implying that the doctor is Banksy.
Oh, is that what that was? When they were writing on the wall?
Yeah, Banksy. Yeah, because Banksy does that. Banksy's a he, but nobody knows who it is. So these street art, these pictures of like street stuff just pop up all over the streets in random locations, like street art. So yeah, that's what that was about. If you read up about Banksy, you'll understand the joke a bit more. It was very good. And I also liked when they had to go and get the bus driver because he'd gone fishing, and Graham and Ryan went out to and they went to really wind the guy up, didn't they? I thought that was hilarious. And then ultimately, at the end, I was an emotional wreck at the end of it, Susan. I really was. I watched it twice, and I was an emotional wreck. Even worse the second time. But in a way, I wish I hadn't watched it the second time, because it made me even worse. I mean, I was at the end of it. I was crying at the end of it. I thought it was such a beautiful ending when she sits down and the music kicks in, and then the doctor's saying how, times were hard for Rosa Parks, and then they showed the image of her getting the award, and then they showed the asteroid, which is actually a real asteroid. Actually,
True that.
Yes, the asteroid does exist. It was just very, very emotional stuff.
Alan, with the scene at the end with when they showed the clip of getting her the award, is that
the award? Yeah.
Is that real, actual footage of the?
Yes, that's real footage.
Yeah, that's her.
That was. Did you say it was 1999? Somewhere. What was it? Yeah, 1999. Yeah.
So that's the actual Rosa Parks.
Yeah, and she lived till like 2006 or something.
Yeah.
2005. Yeah, that completely got me. When they just showed her there getting that award, it was really her. It just brought everything home. Like you'd seen this wonderful actress portray her, and she did a great job. She's been in Doctor Who before. She was in 42, wasn't she? She was
nailed it.
Phenomenal. She absolutely nailed it. She completely stole the show. And then just seeing Rosa in real life there on the TARDIS screen, just brought everything home. It just made it real. Do you get what I mean? It made you, like, we've been on this adventure with the Doctor, but then you get to the end and you realise this really happened. This really happened. And there's the woman there that it happened with. And she really did that. And so I was just, I did cry at the end of it. I did. That's how emotionally involved I was in the episode. And an episode of Doctor Who that can make me cry, which there aren't many, but I have done in the past, is definitely a 10 out of 10, without doubt. 10's not even high enough. 10 really isn't high enough.
Well, I saw a picture of Rosa Parks. My mom showed me when I first viewed the episode for the first time, like as how she looked within this episode, like the real Rosa Parks.
Oh, yeah, she looks exactly like her, doesn't she, really?
And the actor actually looks exactly how she did.
Yeah, but let's be honest. We've got to give props to the costume department. For makeup, for making her look the part.
And the production design, because all of the vehicles were right. The street lights were right. Everything about the episode, even to the hotel room, was right.
And the bus timetable, they actually copied one from that era exactly. They actually went to the length of making it exact, because obviously they don't have one. They had to create that as a prop.
Yeah.
The timetable, and they made it exactly how it would have been back then on that day. So, anyway, Kevin's joined us.
Yeah, sorry for a late time, eh?
No, we're still on opening thoughts. Actually, I gave my score already, but we're still on opening thoughts.
Can you just say when you're getting started so I can join, because nobody said anything.
What's your opening thoughts on Rosa?
I really like this episode. The last episode I wasn't on here, but I really didn't like that. Like the last episode, I was like, okay, cool, science fiction, but the plot was like, yeah, we get in the TARDIS, that's it. Yeah, and monsters like the last time, but this time I was like, oh, there are certain words like Negroes and other words that I'm like, is Doctor Who getting really serious now? Like, it's leaving the kids aspect, behind since Chris Chibnall has taken over. I was really surprised that they go out this route. I don't know how late this episode was on TV, but I saw that after 11 p.m., so I recorded it. But this episode was heavy. I was almost getting emotional at the end, like, one of the friends of the Doctor wants to interfere or wants to, go away, but the Doctor says, you're going to stay, because he didn't want to see it. We can all understand that Graham was, like, but it was a heavy episode, and I don't know if we have seen the last of the villain in that episode. He probably comes back this series already, because if he's really like Zeb Boom, he's gone. We defeated him. Yeah, it's way too easy how they defeated them. That's one of the negatives I give. So for the rest, I love this episode. So yeah.
Thanks for that, Kevin. But picking up on something Kevin said about the words Negro, and the word Paki was also used. And what shocked me as well was when they were sat in the pub, weren't they, or something, and everybody was staring at them. And then they wouldn't serve Ryan. They wouldn't
serve Ryan or
Yaz. Or Yaz. They didn't want them in there. Yeah. But the thing is, honestly, people say it was hard hitting, but it had to be, because you cannot airbrush history. You cannot just gloss over these things. You've got to show it how it was and be honest. Do you know what? The most disrespectful thing they could have done was not have had the word Negro in there, or not have Ryan and Yaz thrown out or made to hide behind the bins, because they had to be honest how it was. And I think they paid great respect. I have to say, the writer of this and the whole production team paid great respect. I thought this was a very respectful episode for Rosa Parks and people of that time, because it didn't hold back, and it couldn't hold back, because if it held back, it would have been disrespectful. And also using the words, this is a kids' TV show. It is a kids' TV show, but you've got to remember, kids are hearing these words in the playground. They are. They are hearing these words on the internet, and they need to be taught. These kids need to learn why these words are wrong and the battles that were fought to show they were wrong. Everything is about education. And
because it's really easy. It's really easy to make fun of people.
Yep.
To be really super hurtful and cruel. It's easy. It's like culturally, in some people's worlds, it's cool. It's a cool
thing. You need
to
know the impacts of your words.
But the reality of the cruelty is that it comes from a place of extreme hatred and extreme violence, and to render that important in this day and age, it needs to be hard-hitting.
Okay. Right, talking about, can I butt in?
Yeah, no, that's fine, you carry on, yep.
Right, talking about cruelty and what people say to each other. When I work as a cleaner, I take a walk around town after I've finished work. I've heard people going, "Oh, I haven't seen you for a long time. God, there's weight you put on. That's disgusting, that is." You get this bloke saying, "God, you put a weight on. What the hell are you eating?" and all that. That's disgusting. I mean, the person could have mental health issues. He could go home. He could top himself. He could starve himself. Things like that should be stopped.
Yeah, no, cruelty online and in general in public it's on the rise. I think people are getting crueler. I really do.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of cruelty around, and it's unnecessary. People should just learn to be nicer to one another. I mean, we're all on the same boat. We're all on the same little rock. Just get along a bit more.
Well, I do have a few thoughts on that, but also, so in terms of the episode, yes, obviously they only have 55 minutes.
Yeah.
Can't cover everything. Some things are going to be glossed over, some things are not. And obviously, whether it's fictional or not, if you hate somebody and there isn't an individual reason or there isn't a personal reason, then it's obviously either some sort of racism or some sort of bigotry. And again, just like anything else in the world, it depends on what levels it is. I mean, unfortunately, I am in a society where it is still very, and even in Massachusetts, it is still very, it's working on a lot of assumptions that have no basis in reality and no basis when it comes to me. I've even had people come up to me here in the building that I live, and they say, "Well, we don't approve of you and Susan being together." And I said, "Do you even know her?" "No, I don't." I said, "Well, then what you're saying is kind of ignorant. And it's mean, because at least I wouldn't mind the criticism if it was somewhat founded by something, but it's not." And as one comedian even said, even in a mean way, there's so many individual reasons why you could not like somebody, not just based on the way they look. I mean, it's still a little nasty, but you get the point of view. But still.
So they don't like you being with Susan because of color.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right, yeah. Right. So I had to tell the person, I said, "Well, I think that's very low of you, and I'm not interested in your opinion."
Alex, why does that even still exist?
I know. Well, unfortunately, unfortunately, it is also. Well, obviously, in reality and in the concept of eternity, we're all human anyway. So all this nonsense about old versus young, rich versus poor, white versus black, or whatever, because in a way, that's the old-fashioned prejudice.
Have you met Brian?
Anyway, what I'm trying to illustrate is that, the other issue too is it a question of inclusion and not wanting the world segregated, or is it a question of the fact that human nature is a little bit nasty and is a little bit, well, you're not like me, so therefore.
Yeah.
When in reality, we're all humans, and we're all going to die, and we're all going to, if we live long enough, we go through all sorts of things. Some days that are good, some days that are bad, some days we have a lot of money, some days we don't, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
we all go to the same place in the end.
Right. So I've had to put up with, sorry, Susan, I've had to put up with prejudice in the terms of you're not good enough. It's not so much the skin color or the appearance, but the ironic part is I love it when the adults say, well, it's the kids. I said, no, the kids are actually good. The kids will give you a chance. It's the adults that
kids
already
are
have
far
their
more kinder.
right. Yeah.
Like the old guy who hits Ryan. It isn't somebody young.
It's an old man. It's an old bloke, isn't it?
Yeah. But that's also sort of a thing like we can get into is ageism. Let me just say this. Regardless of what anybody thinks about Alex and I and our relationship, and regardless of what they've said to you guys, the cool thing about this is that it took a point in time, and it showed the Doctor not, making a huge impact. Not like the Romans episode where, it's the Doctor who convinces Nero to burn Rome. I mean, it's it lands on the side of good and of.
Oh wait, we are missing one historical that did happen in series 10 with the soldiers, the Roman soldiers that went missing. What's it called now? It's gone completely out of my mind.
Oh, the one with
the Ninth Legion.
Yeah,
the Ninth Legion. Yeah, Eaters of Light. That actually did happen.
Yeah, and
That's
it did end up on the side of the good. But but it didn't have.
But that was the Doctor. That was the Doctor. He caused that. He made that happen. Yeah.
But it wasn't as powerful because they're not still looking for the Ninth Legion. The men who were there have passed away. I mean, Rosa Parks isn't she still alive?
No, she died.
All right.
Died in 2005.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So, So I mean, again, sorry. So I mean, again, that's the other issue is the fact that in the real world, in the universe, you can't just say, well, it's our group, it's who we want, and nothing's going to change, and people don't move around and all that stuff. I mean, again, we're all human. So, my stepfather and his family had to deal with a lot of prejudice because they were in the South. However, back from the 30s to the 60s and even after that, there's still prejudice. There's still racism. It's just that it may be hidden better or it may not.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of racism in the UK that still goes on.
Right.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of racism in the UK. I mean, look at the other day on that Ryanair flight.
Right, and look at what Noel Clarke is doing all over, his Brotherhood and those are full of that issue, right?
Yeah, I've not watched them, but I'll take.
I've watched all of them, and he totally touches on it, but he doesn't include the things like a difficult decision whether or not to be part of it, because you just are part of it. I mean, Doctor Who has always the decision whether or not to engage the evil thing and to overcome it, or to actually retreat from it. And that's the cool thing, is that in this case the Doctor tells Graham to please just do this. I mean, do this for Nan. Don't walk away from it. So I mean, that was an emotional moment for me. And the anticlimactic thing with like the baddie and his vortex manipulator and everything, like, I don't know. Not so emotional.
Well, I mean, again, and then of course, just like I'd like to touch upon as well, the rotten things that are said online that have a partial anonymity to it. First of all, it's illustrating a point in history. Yes, it's not 100% accurate. It is presenting a story. Some people may like it, some people may not. Doctor Who has always been on the side of together, not us versus them.
Yeah.
And that's also a point in science fiction. Also, again, life is life. So all these labels that we put on ourselves, all these designations that we put on ourselves, life is still life.
Yep.
And it connects whether you like it or not, and the world moves on whether you like it or not.
You know, Alex, you know it. You know your politics. It's divide and conquer, isn't it?
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully we can start changing back. And the other thing, too, is people are very rude now. Like the idiocy I hear here in my building of, well, I'm white, I'm in the minority. And I said, what difference does it make? We're all disabled here. We're all living in the same building.
People, look. Forget about sex. Forget about color. Forget about straight or gay or anything like that. Forget all of it. People are just people. We're all the same race. Start getting along. We're all the same. What don't we understand that we're all the same? We're all the same. We're all equal.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we should stop having these inner fights with ourselves. Right, let's we move on to...
yeah, we should talk about favorite moments and get the other people involved in this discussion.
Let's go to Brian. If he can remember what we're doing.
That only
You remember what we're talking about now, Brian?
That only happened once. Shut up.
You did that last time.
Just because it happened last weekend does not mean it's going to happen today.
All right, then. So what are we talking about, then?
Doctor Who.
All right, and give us your favourite moments for Rosa.
My favorite moment of the episode would probably have to be, I think my first favorite moment would probably have to be when they first encounter the one guy that's disturbing history. I can't really remember his name, but he
the escaped convict, wasn't he? He escaped.
Yeah. Because the reason why I think that will probably be my first favorite moment is because he's from Storm Cage, and I love that little reference and nod to the Storm Cage because, as you know, that's where River Song was.
Really?
Yes.
Why do we have to be reminded of River Song?
Well, who knows? I mean, it's not my fault. It's Chimno's fault for putting that in the episode.
What's your second favorite moment?
Second favorite moment would probably have to be the one that at the beginning when they mentioned Elvis in the TARDIS. Like, Grandma's going
with the phone. Yeah.
Grandma's like, you have Elvis's phone number, and the doctor's like, don't tell anybody I give him a mobile phone. So I think that's my second favorite moment. Lastly, I think it's the ending, and I think that because it's such an emotional impact, probably the most emotional impact worth of the episode. So, seeing,
I'm just cold.
Seeing from what it happened and how it took course, So I think that is probably my lastly and third favorite moment of the episode.
And did you know the asteroid was actually, a genuine asteroid?
I think
There is an asteroid named after Rosa Parks.
I did, but I didn't know. Again, at the time, I don't really know who Rosa Parks was until now. So,
Yep, let's go to Stephen Price for favourite moments, and then we'll go to Kevin.
Favourite moments from the Doctor. I went to the bus driver's house and said he won a prize when he's going to drive that bus. So that was excellent. When they were on the bus, trying to sort things, where Graham said, "You're not supposed to be here." Well, the Doctor said, "You're going to stay here because we're in history." I did like that part, and I like the part at the end where they showed the Rosa, what do you call it? Yeah, that's my favourite. Another favourite moment's where the police officer comes in and Graham puts his arm on the Doctor and says we're a couple, and he says his name was Steve Jobs.
Oh, that made me laugh. And he was pitching this invention, wasn't he, of the mobile telephone?
Yeah.
it's an iPhone.
The rating, do I rate it now? Or
No. Wait till that was his favourite moment, Stephen. You get a bit carried away.
Oh,
Well, you gotta wait until the very end, Stephen. Come on.
oh, shut up.
Let's go to Kevin for favourite moments.
Well, there are some moments that were supposed to be funny, but I didn't even get them. That was the moment when the Doctor was written on the wall, and you're not supposed to do that. You're not Banksy, or am
Do you know
I?
who, you know who Banksy is?
I
do you know
don't
who
know.
Banksy is?
I'm from the Netherlands.
I had a feeling you wouldn't. Our American friends don't either, Susan and Alex.
No.
Or Brian. If you knew who Banksy was, it's a really good joke.
He knows. I don't.
Yeah, that was the
Anyway, carry on, Kevin.
Okay. And I like the moment when Ryan was getting slapped in the face. Then I was like, holy cow. I was like, damn. They are really going to push up the rating, to watch it. And the ending, I really like the ending. Everybody was thinking that Sia was going to do the Doctor Who theme, all those rumors, but eventually it was just a song about, the ending of the episode. And and pretty much when Ryan meets Martin Luther King, that was cool to see. Quick cameo. And that was it. So for next week. Oh no, this week, the Spider episode.
Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow night. Arachnids in the UK.
Is it tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow. I don't know when you get it. Do you get it? Do you get it when it goes out in the UK?
Yeah, it's on 8:00 at night over here.
Oh, yeah.
I don't watch it when it's live. There's other shows.
Yeah, you watch it before the cast you do, Brian. Like tonight.
No, I don't. The first time I watched this episode was on Wednesday, you ninny.
But Kevin did bring up a moment that I forgot when Ryan does meet Martin Luther King. I thought that was hilarious. He's there with Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, and he's beside himself. He can't believe it. I really like Ryan as a character.
What the things that Ryan is doing isn't even affecting the timeline. It really isn't.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, no, I like the fact that they were just there to preserve history. They couldn't get involved. They couldn't alter history. And I like that the doctor didn't say, Rosa, you've got to sit down at this moment. You've got to sit down. You know, they allowed it to play out as, obviously it's a television show, but they allowed it to play out as history was, you know. So I think that was definitely a big plus to the episode, that it wasn't the doctor that influenced Rosa Parks to sit down or anyone else. She did it off her own bat, like she did in real life. You know, she wasn't told by the doctor, you've got to sit down. So, yeah. Let's go to final sayings, or we might as well start off with Alex and Susan, since they're muted.
Okay, did you have any favorite moments on?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Oh, did I forget to go to you for favorite moments? I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. Yeah, I mean, again, it was, again, I enjoyed, and I was trying to illustrate the point again, because I think it's gotten sort of ignored, of, you know, again, science fiction, if you want to do something science fiction oriented, it's not about all these labels and this versus that, and it's together, number one. Number two, the cast is doing a wonderful job. Number three, the episode could have been a lot worse. Yes, there was a few things that I would have liked them to have talked about, but they have a limited time. I enjoyed the fact that they brought up the fact that Obama becomes president 50 years later. I enjoyed the fact that they talked about the anger, but they didn't act upon it. They weren't violent, except for taking the quote-unquote racist alien back to whatever time that it's not revealed. I also enjoyed the fact that the doctor illustrated, and if you listen to the dialogue, they illustrate that Rosa Parks, had to wait a long time to get the credit. And that's another thing that people may not realize in history as well, with everything else in life. You don't necessarily see the consequences or the possible repercussions of your actions, whether it's intentional or not. So
But can I just add as well? You know the racist alien is from the future. What I really liked as well about it was that it proves that racism is always still going to be around.
Right.
It's never going to end, just like all other forms of hate and you know, whatever it is, sexism, homophobia, you know, these things are always, you're going to always have these people who think the way they do.
Well, again, even though I'm in the wrong for bringing this up, in Classic Who, Tom Baker and Sylvester McCoy said, you know, time will tell, it always does. So, you know, out of evil can also come some good if you decide to. So again, just like science fiction is there to illustrate not only the us versus them, but the fact that there is good and evil. That's the point. It's supposed to be a balance of both sides. So in other words, you know, it's supposed to be an allegory or an illustration of whatever example, whatever scenario, whatever story that you come up with. And again, it could have been a lot worse. They had a limited amount of time. There's no two-parters in this season. So I actually thought there was a good example. I also thought it was a good example that they did show that Rosa Parks was involved with Martin Luther King and all that. So again, I also enjoyed the fact that, what's his name? For goodness sake, I just forgot. Ryan,
yeah.
He didn't say, well, Obama's coming or whatever. You know, he didn't abuse the timeline by revealing, you know, what he knows, but that doesn't mean Rosa Parks knows it or Martin, you know, and that's the other thing in life is that you don't always know the future. That's why science fiction is a nice idea, because it can predict the future. You know, we didn't always have computers and cell phones and and rockets and things like that.
And my favorite moment was with those powerhouse people in the room. Ryan Sinclair, who is now going to become powerful through his interaction with the Doctor and these historical figures that he met. He met Martin Luther King, he met Rosa Parks, he met the other influential leaders in the civil rights movement in the United States. And he comes from a position of being a disabled man, a person of color, and he himself is going to be raised up into his, a glorious position because of his unique situation and his unique connection to the Doctor. And boy, is she the Doctor now. She's like Hartnell all over again, only shorter. She's just powerful. And I think it's really cool. And, like Barbara being a badass and being that goddess in the Aztecs, here's Graham having to pull on all the stuff about being a bus driver to really influence the situation and create a spot for history to happen. Oh, it's so good. So I'll give this I'll actually jump in and give my final say and score. It's a 11 1950s city buses with Rosa Parks in them out of 10. So here's Alex.
Oh, are we on the score now?
Yeah, no, score it. Yeah, give it a score. Yeah.
All
Be
right.
kind,
Well,
Alex.
again, I'll give it a 9. Like I said, they could have done more with it. As I said, I know I included personal things with this review, but I also hope that people understand what I'm saying socially as well. And of course,
No
hopefully,
one's watching this, Alex.
yeah, no, there's people watching it. And, the other truths of life is, imagine if you were in someone else's shoes and treat others as you want to treat them. But as far as science fiction goes, it is, depending on the writing and depending on the scenario, of us and them, or us versus them, but the power develops from working together, not separate, and not separate but equal, even though that's also another tried and true story in a lot of science fiction. But again, if you read a lot of science fiction books, not just TV shows, but books as well, it's supposed to be based on the lesson, even though it is dressed up in the aliens or the rockets or the politics or whatever. And I understand that it is a human tendency to project what you think. But if it's well written, it will also make a reference to that. But if you read science fiction from H.G. Wells on to the present time, it is to illustrate philosophy, point of view, politics. It could cover many different things depending on the story.
And can I just say as well, I forgot to mention, but it deserves a shout out, which is the music. They had a very American-esque music, didn't they, in the background, which I thought was absolutely amazing. It was brilliant. So we've had a 9, a 10. Let's go to Kevin to see what is going to score it.
I gave it 11.
11. A 9 and an 11. Where's Kevin going to go?
About the music, it was very good. Finally, not generic, because the last two episodes, I was just missing that. What is his name again? The previous composer, Mangold, right?
Yeah, I don't know what his name is.
Gold, you know, he was like all those crazy good themes. And in the first episode, you know, of the new Doctor Who series, I was expecting a new theme, you know, about the new Doctor, you know. Nothing. Generic bullshit. Sorry that I have to say. But in this episode, the music was finally living. I was like, yeah, yes, you know, finally some new music that you can listen back to. So yeah, I'm going to give this an episode a 9 out of 10. And I hope the Halloween episode is going to be good.
Yep. Let's go Stephen Price.
I'll give this episode, I really enjoyed it. This is the best out of the series so far. I'll give it a 15.
A 15. Wow, Stephen. Wow. You're not even higher than Susan. Let's go to Brian.
My turn again.
Yeah, your turn again.
I think I'm gonna give this episode a 10 out of 10.
Go on, Brian.
Or maybe I should give it a 1. I'm just kidding.
No, don't you start doing that. That's what I do when with Pete's Dragon with Lee.
No. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. It deserves it. This episode is amazing.
Yeah, no, you know what? The historical episodes are always my favourites. I mean, Susan mentioned the Aztecs. I love the Aztecs. I always love the historical ones, the best. From William Hartnell and everything. They're just, I love the historicals. This episode, it's so emotional. And I've already said my score. It's 10 out of 10. It's an absolute solid 10. I'd give it a million. Yeah, I'll give it 1,000,000 out of 10. Because I enjoyed every single moment of it. And the best gift you can give somebody in life is education. And if this teaches people about Rosa Parks for the first time, like it did Brian, like it did Stephen, like it did, you know, I didn't know much about Rosa Parks. I mean, I did know about her, but I didn't know everything that went on. And Doctor Who showing what went on, it just brings it home, you know. It just makes you emotionally attached to it because it's Doctor Who and it's telling you what actually happened. And, you know, I had anger, you know, in me when I watched it, but it was also funny and it was sad, but it was uplifting in the end. So I went through all sorts of emotions in the end. What do you want, Susan? Oh, you're all right. Oh, I thought you were you're putting your hand up to speak. Yeah. So yeah, it's one of my favorite episodes ever, full stop. And I think the last few moments with the bus and we're seeing Rosa on the image in the TARDIS and the asteroid at the end, I think that's one of the best few moments ever in Doctor Who. Those are one of the best couple of scenes ever in the show's history. And I'm talking about classic Who as well. They're one of the best. And do you know what? This is up there with one of my favourite episodes of all time. I'm not just talking about New Who. I'm talking about every single era. And it's such an important episode of Doctor Who because I'll tell you what, you'll have people remembering this episode in 50 years from now. This episode is not going to be forgotten about. I actually think this should be shown in schools for educational purposes. I really do. Honestly, this is Doctor Who at its best. So, yeah, we're going to wrap it up there. I'd like to thank everybody here for joining me. I'd like to thank you for watching, Fred. Remember, Fred, to comment below. Hit that subscribe button Fred's our viewer.
Oh, hi.
Say hi to Fred. Give him a wave. He's our one viewer. Look after yourself. Take care. We will see you next time.